Please, don't hit me. I'm already hurt.
Ma'am, I'm not going to hurt you. Nobody's going to hurt you.
That's what they all say. That's what he said before he destroyed everything.
I just want to help. My daughter and we saw you fall a few minutes ago. Are you injured?
Injured? You want to know if I'm injured? I've been living in my car for 3 weeks. I haven't eaten in 2 days. My entire life was stolen from me. So yes, I'm injured. But not in the way you think.
Daddy, she's sad like you were when Mommy went to heaven.
Emma's right. I know that kind of hurt. The kind that doesn't show up on x-rays.
You don't know anything about me. You see a black woman on the street and assume I'm, what, homeless? A drug addict? Just another statistic?
I see a woman in a $1,000 suit that hasn't been dry cleaned in weeks. I see Louboutin heels with the soles worn through from walking. I see someone who's running from something, or someone. And I see exhaustion that comes from fighting battles nobody else can see. That's what I see.
Who are you?
Right now? I'm just a dad trying to teach his daughter that when someone's hurting, you stop. You help. No questions asked. Pause. My name is Michael. This is Emma. And I'm guessing you haven't had a decent meal in a while.
I don't need charity. I don't need pity. I just need help. I just need this nightmare to end.
My mommy used to say that nightmares end when you wake up. Maybe you just need to wake up somewhere safe. Don't you think so?
I don't have anywhere safe anymore, sweetheart.
Then let's change that. Just for tonight. A warm meal. A clean bed. And tomorrow, if you want to walk away, you can. No strings. No judgment. Just one person helping another because it's the right thing to do.
Why? Why would you help a complete stranger?
Because 2 years ago, I was broken in a different way. And I learned that sometimes the only thing that saves us is someone willing to see us when we've become invisible to everyone else. You don't have to trust me. You just have to trust that somewhere in this world, there are still people who give a damn.
This is the story of how a single moment can change the trajectory of an entire life. How pride can be both our greatest strength and our most devastating weakness. How the man in worn jeans carrying groceries can hold more power than anyone in a boardroom. And how sometimes, the person who saves you is the one who needs saving just as much. This is the story of Lisa Kingston and Michael Torres. Two broken souls. One impossible night. And the revelation that would change everything they thought they knew about worth, wealth, and what it truly means to be rich. But to understand how we got here, to this rain-soaked street corner where a CEO begged a stranger not to hurt her, we need to go back. Back to when Lisa Kingston had everything. Back to before the fall. Back to the moment when ambition met betrayal, and a life built on excellence came crashing down in the most devastating way possible. This is that story. But before we proceed, I want to welcome you back, my lovely family, and those who are just joining us for the first time. Let me know where you're watching from. And to make sure you don't miss this video, please hit the subscribe button now. 4 months before that rainy night, Lisa Kingston stood in her corner office on the 42nd floor of the Richardson Tower in downtown Seattle, looking out at the city she'd conquered. At 28 years old, she was the youngest black female CEO in the Pacific Northwest tech industry. Her company, Bright Future Analytics, had revolutionized data privacy solutions for healthcare providers. 3 years of grinding 16-hour days, sacrificing relationships, missing family gatherings, and pushing through every microaggression and closed door had brought her here. The Seattle skyline glittered beneath her like a field of possibilities. Revenue projections showed $47 million for the year. Venture capitalists were circling for their Series B funding round. Forbes had called her the future of ethical tech. Her parents, immigrants from Jamaica who'd worked double shifts to put her through MIT, finally stopped asking when she'd get a stable job. She'd made it. That morning, she'd approved the wire transfer that would change everything. Her business partner and CFO, Marcus Chin, had been with her since the beginning. They'd met at a tech incubator, two hungry entrepreneurs with complementary skills. He managed the numbers while she built the product. She trusted him completely. Why wouldn't she? They'd weathered the startup storms together, celebrated every milestone, shared the dream of building something that mattered. When Marcus said they needed to move $12 million into a new escrow account for their acquisition of a smaller competitor, Lisa signed the authorization without hesitation. It was a strategic move they'd discussed for months. The paperwork was flawless. The opportunity was perfect. Everything made sense. She never thought to verify the account numbers. She never questioned why Marcus suddenly needed her signature on 36 documents during their Thursday evening meeting. She never wondered why he insisted she take Friday off, telling her she'd been working too hard, that she deserved a break. Friday morning, she woke up to 17 missed calls from her board chairman. By the time she called back, her world was already burning. The $12 million was gone. So was Marcus. The escrow account didn't exist. The acquisition was a fabrication. And somehow, inexplicably, every transaction had her digital signature, her authorization, her fingerprints all over it. Within 48 hours, the FBI had frozen every company account. Bright Future's board called an emergency meeting and voted to suspend her pending investigation. Clients began terminating contracts. Employees started updating their LinkedIn profiles. Venture capitalists who'd courted her suddenly couldn't remember her name. By Monday, she was a fraud suspect. By Tuesday, the media had convicted her. Tech prodigies fall from grace. CEO accused of embezzling millions screamed the headlines. Her face, usually featured in 30 under 30 lists, now appeared in articles about corporate corruption. Online comments dissected everything from her competence to her character. Affirmative action hire, some said. Diversity placement gone wrong, others claimed. The racism that had always lurked beneath the surface of her success story erupted like a geyser. Her lawyer told her the evidence was overwhelming. Marcus had been planning this for at least a year. Every document, every signature, every transaction had been carefully crafted to make her look guilty while he disappeared into the financial shadows. He'd drained not just the company accounts, but had somehow accessed her personal savings through a series of shell companies and forged authorizations. Her credit cards were maxed out on purchases she never made. Her investment accounts were empty. 3 weeks after the fraud was discovered, U.S. Marshals knocked on her penthouse door with an eviction notice. The property owner had filed based on the criminal investigation and frozen assets. She had 72 hours to vacate. Her parents stopped answering her calls. The disappointment was too heavy for them to carry. They'd sacrificed everything so she could avoid this kind of failure, this kind of shame. Her friends, mostly fellow entrepreneurs and tech executives, distanced themselves. Association with a scandal could taint their own reputations. The invitations stopped. The text messages went unanswered. She'd become invisible while still standing in the same room. Lisa packed what she could fit in her 8-year-old Honda Civic. Designer clothes, awards, the framed Forbes cover, her MIT diploma, all left behind. She took only what mattered: her laptop, a few changes of clothes, her grandmother's necklace, and a photograph of her parents on the day she'd graduated from business school. Their faces were radiant with pride. She couldn't look at it without feeling her chest cave in. For 3 weeks, she lived in her car, parking in different locations each night to avoid police attention, washing up in coffee shop bathrooms, charging her laptop at public libraries, eating when she could afford it, which became less frequent as her last bit of cash dwindled. She didn't apply for assistance. Pride wouldn't allow it. She'd lectured at conferences about self-sufficiency and entrepreneurial resilience. She'd told countless audiences that success was about grit and determination. How could she stand in a welfare line after preaching that gospel? Every day she searched for Marcus, tracked his digital footprints, tried to find evidence that would prove her innocence. But he'd vanished completely, leaving only her reputation in ruins and her life in ashes. The morning of that rainy night, Lisa had $4.37 to her name. She'd been awake for 36 hours, running on nothing but convenience store coffee and desperation. Her phone had been disconnected 2 days earlier. Her laptop battery was at 3%. She sat in her car outside the grocery store, trying to calculate if she could afford a loaf of bread and peanut butter to last the week. That's when she saw them. A man in jeans that had seen better days, a faded t-shirt with a small coffee stain on the collar, holding hands with a little girl in a pink jacket. They were laughing about something, the easy laughter of people whose biggest worry was what cereal to buy. The sight of their simple happiness broke something in Lisa that had been barely holding together. She stepped out of her car intending to walk into the store. But her vision blurred. Her legs weakened. The sidewalk rushed up to meet her. She felt the cold concrete against her cheek, heard muffled voices, saw shadows approaching. And then she heard footsteps coming closer. In her traumatized mind, still reeling from Marcus's betrayal, still raw from how completely someone she trusted had destroyed her, those footsteps sounded like a threat. That's when she said the words that would change everything. "Please don't hit me. I'm already hurt." Michael Torres had $8.7 billion in assets, but he'd spent the afternoon comparing prices on whole wheat bread. To anyone watching him in that Seattle grocery store, he was just another single dad on a Thursday evening, stretching a budget and trying to convince his 6-year-old that vegetables were actually delicious. His jeans had a small tear near the left pocket. His gray t-shirt was from a 5K charity run 3 years ago. His sneakers were clean but far from new. Nothing about him suggested he was one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in North America. That was exactly the point. Michael had built cloud vision solutions from his garage 13 years ago, turning an innovative approach to cloud infrastructure into an empire that powered 30% of North America's internet traffic. By 30, he was worth $3 billion. By 35, that number had nearly tripled. Tech magazines called him a visionary. Business schools taught case studies about his strategies, but none of them knew what he knew. Money hadn't bought him the one thing that mattered. It hadn't saved Sarah. His wife, his college sweetheart, the woman who'd believed in him when cloud vision was just a crazy idea and a maxed-out credit card, had been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer when Emma was 3 years old. They'd spent millions on treatments, flown to the best specialists in the world, tried every experimental therapy available. Money opened every door, but it couldn't stop what was coming. Sarah died on a Tuesday morning, holding his hand, making him promise 2 things. First, that he'd make sure Emma knew she was loved beyond measure. Second, that he'd remember what really mattered in life because somewhere along the way to billions she'd watched him forget. "You've become invisible," she'd whispered with her last bit of strength. "Not to me, never to me, but to yourself. You look in the mirror and see the CEO, the billionaire, the success story. You've forgotten the man who used to fix computers in his parents' garage because he wanted to help people solve problems. Find him again, Michael. For Emma. For yourself." Those words haunted him through 2 years of grief. He'd taken a step back from Cloud Vision's daily operations, installing a trusted CEO while he remained the majority shareholder and strategic advisor. He'd moved from his waterfront mansion to a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a middle-class neighborhood. Put Emma in public school instead of the elite academy. Drove a Honda Civic instead of the Tesla. His board thought he was having a breakdown. His mother worried he was depressed. His few remaining friends from before the money didn't know what to make of his transformation. But Michael wasn't breaking down. He was building back up. Back to the foundation Sarah had recognized was crumbling. He wanted to know if anyone would see him, really see him, without the wealth. He wanted to understand if human connection was still possible when stripped of status and circumstance. He wanted to test whether the world he'd helped create, a world driven by metrics and valuations and net worth, had any room left for genuine humanity. So he became invisible by choice. Just another single dad navigating the everyday challenges of raising a daughter alone. He joined Emma's PTA, volunteered at her school library, shopped at regular grocery stores and compared prices like everyone else, wore clothes from Target and drove a car with 100,000 miles on it. And he watched how people treated him differently, how conversations changed, how respect and attention were directly correlated to perceived wealth, how invisible he'd become without the trappings of success. It was liberating and devastating in equal measure. Emma adjusted better than he expected. At 6 years old, she didn't understand billions or mansions or private schools. She understood that Daddy was home more, that they cooked dinner together, that bedtime stories came without distracted glances at a phone. She was happier in their small apartment than she'd ever been in the estate. "Daddy," she'd said one night, "I like it when you're just my daddy and not the important man everyone wants to talk to." Sarah had been right. He'd been disappearing into his success, becoming a caricature of himself. The billions were just numbers and accounts he rarely thought about. They didn't hug him at night. They didn't giggle at his terrible jokes. They didn't make crayon drawings that said, "My hero," in wobbly letters. But even as he rebuilt his life, Michael felt incomplete. Sarah's death had taught him about loss. His voluntary simplicity had taught him about perspective. But he still searched for something he couldn't quite name. A purpose beyond profit margins. A connection that mattered. He'd started noticing people differently. The cashier with weary eyes working a second shift. The homeless veteran outside the library. The elderly neighbor struggling with grocery bags. He helped when he could, quietly, without fanfare. Small acts that felt more significant than any business deal he'd ever closed. That Thursday evening, he'd taken Emma to the grocery store for their weekly shopping trip. She was chattering about her school day, something about a friend's birthday party and whether unicorns were real. He was only half listening, his mind wandering to a work problem he'd been puzzling over, when Emma suddenly stopped talking. "Daddy?" She tugged his hand, her voice serious. That lady fell down. Michael looked up to see a woman in a business suit collapsed on the sidewalk outside the store. Other shoppers walked past, glancing but not stopping. The woman was struggling to get up, her movements uncoordinated, desperate. Something in her posture, the way she curled into herself, reminded him of Sarah in those last terrible months. The same defeated slump of someone whose body and spirit had been pushed past their breaking point. "We should help her," Emma said, not a question but a statement of fact. 6 years old and already possessing more compassion than half the adults walking by. "You're right, sweetheart," Michael said, setting down their shopping basket. "We should." They approached carefully. The woman's eyes were wild, darting between them and the street, assessing threats. Her suit was expensive but neglected. Her hair, natural and beautiful, had been pulled into a hasty ponytail. She had the look of someone who'd been running on empty for far too long. That's when she said it. Those words that cut through everything. "Please don't hit me. I'm already hurt." In that moment, Michael saw past the fear and desperation. He saw intelligence in her eyes despite the chaos. He saw pride warring with need. He saw someone at the absolute end of their rope, hanging on by nothing but stubborn will. He saw someone worth saving. He saw someone who might save him too. The conversation that followed, brief as it was, told him everything he needed to know. This wasn't addiction or mental illness. This was trauma. Recent, devastating trauma. The $1,000 suit, the designer heels worn through from walking, the way she held herself like someone accustomed to respect who no longer received it. She was educated, articulate, and terrified. When she accused him of judging her based on her race, Michael understood. He'd lived in tech long enough to know the battles black women fought for every inch of ground. The assumptions, the dismissals, the constant need to prove competence that men like him had automatically granted. He didn't defend himself. He just named what he actually saw, validating her reality instead of dismissing it. Emma's comment about nightmares and waking up somewhere safe was what finally broke through the woman's defenses. Children have a way of cutting through complexity to simple truth. Sometimes nightmares do end when you wake up somewhere safe. And this woman, whoever she was, desperately needed safety. Michael's offer was genuine. A warm meal. A clean bed. No expectations. It was the kind of help he'd been offering in small ways for months now, but something about this moment felt different. Significant. Like the universe had orchestrated this encounter for reasons he didn't yet understand. When she finally took his hand, he felt the tremor in her grip. Felt how much courage it took for her to accept help. Felt the weight of whatever had brought her to this sidewalk, broken and alone. As they walked to his car, Emma between them, Michael made a decision. Whatever this woman's story was, whatever had destroyed her life so completely, he would help her find her way back. Not because of some savior complex. Not because he had the resources. But because Sarah's voice whispered in his memory, find yourself by helping others find themselves. He didn't know her name yet. Didn't know she'd been a CEO, didn't know about the fraud or the betrayal or the spectacular public collapse. He didn't know that in a few weeks, when he learned who she really was, he'd have to make an impossible choice about truth and deception. All he knew was that Emma was right. This lady needed help. And for the first time since Sarah's death, Michael felt like he might have found his purpose. The person he was meant to meet. The reason he'd become invisible. Lisa sat in the back seat of the Honda Civic, Emma beside her, still not entirely convinced this wasn't some elaborate setup. Her mind, trained to analyze risks and calculate probabilities, kept cycling through scenarios. Human trafficking. Robbery. Some kind of sick game. But the car seat beside her was well used and covered in cheerful stickers. The floor mats had crumbs from goldfish crackers. A children's audiobook played softly from the speakers, something about a mouse and a motorcycle. The man, Michael, drove carefully, signaling his turns, staying exactly at the speed limit. Every few moments, he'd glance in the rearview mirror, not at her, but checking on his daughter. We live about 10 minutes from here, Michael said, his voice casual, non-threatening. It's not fancy, but it's clean and warm. When's the last time you ate? Lisa's stomach answered before she could, growling loud enough that Emma giggled. That's a long time, huh? Emma said, turning to look at Lisa with concerned brown eyes that reminded Lisa painfully of her own niece. We have spaghetti. Daddy makes really good spaghetti. And garlic bread. Do you like garlic bread? Lisa's voice cracked. When was the last time she'd had a real meal? I do. I like garlic bread. Good. Emma nodded seriously as if this settled something important. You can sit next to me at dinner. What's your name? I'm Emma. I'm 6 3/4. The 3/4 is very important. Despite everything, despite the fear and exhaustion and the surreal absurdity of her situation, Lisa almost smiled. My name is Lisa. And 3/4 is definitely important. Lisa, Emma repeated, testing it out. That's pretty. Like Lisa Frank. She makes stickers with unicorns. Emma's a beautiful name too, Lisa said and meant it. Michael pulled into the parking lot of a modest apartment complex. Not run down, but definitely not upscale. Generic beige buildings, practical landscaping, a playground with equipment that had seen better days. This was middle-class America, the kind of neighborhood Lisa had grown up in before MIT and venture capital funding and corner offices. They climbed 2 flights of exterior stairs to Unit 2C. Michael unlocked the door, flipping on lights to reveal a space that was exactly what he'd promised. Clean, warm, and decidedly unfancy. A well-worn couch faced a small TV. Bookshelves held more children's books than adult ones. The kitchen was tiny but tidy, dishes drying in a rack by the sink. Art projects, clearly Emma's work, decorated the refrigerator. Felt like a home. Not a house, not a showplace, but an actual home where people lived and loved and made memories. Lisa realized she was crying again, but this time not from despair. From the overwhelming strangeness of kindness. From the shock of genuine hospitality after weeks of invisible suffering. The bathroom's down the hall, Michael said gently, pointing. There are clean towels in the cabinet. Take your time. Clean up, catch your breath. Emma and I will start dinner. I can help, Lisa said automatically, the instinct to earn her keep kicking in. Tonight you're a guest, Michael said firmly but kindly. Let us take care of you. Tomorrow we can figure out the rest. Lisa walked to the bathroom on shaking legs. Closed the door and leaned against it, trying to process what was happening. She looked at herself in the mirror for the first time in days. Her reflection shocked her. Hollow cheeks, dark circles under bloodshot eyes, hair that needed washing. The ghost of who she'd been haunting the face of who she'd become. She washed her face with soap that smelled like lavender, used the clean towel to dry off, splashed water on her neck and arms, wishing she could shower but not ready to be that vulnerable yet. She ran her fingers through her hair, trying to make herself presentable. In the living room, she could hear Emma chattering away, her high voice mixing with her father's deeper responses. The sounds of normalcy. The sounds of a life continuing despite tragedy, because what else could you do but keep going? When Lisa emerged, the small dining table had been set for 3. Emma had apparently chosen the placement, because each spot had a paper napkin folded into an elaborate shape. Steam rose from a pot of spaghetti on the stove. Garlic bread warmed in the oven. Perfect timing, Michael said, draining pasta into a colander. Emma, can you show Lisa where to sit? Emma hopped down from her chair and took Lisa's hand with the complete trust of a child who'd never learned to fear strangers. She led Lisa to the seat next to hers, which had been decorated with a hand-drawn name card that said, Lisa, in green crayon with hearts around it. I made you a name card, Emma announced proudly. So you'd know you belong here tonight. You belong here tonight. 6 words from a 6-year-old, but they hit Lisa like a tsunami. How long had it been since she'd belonged anywhere? Since she'd felt like she had a right to take up space? Dinner was served with the kind of comfortable efficiency that spoke of a well-practiced routine. Michael filled plates, Emma helped pass the garlic bread, and Lisa sat in stunned silence as food was placed in front of her. Real food. Hot food. More than she'd eaten in a week. We always say one thing we're grateful for before we eat, Emma explained, her face serious. Daddy started it after Mommy died. He said we needed to remember the good things even when we're sad. You can go first if you want. Lisa looked at the plate in front of her. At the child beside her with the open, trusting face. At the man across the table who'd stopped his life to help a stranger. Her throat closed with emotion. I'm grateful, she managed, for people who still see other people. For kindness when I'd forgotten it existed. For this meal and this moment and... Her voice broke, for both of you reminding me that good people still exist in the world. Emma nodded, satisfied. I'm grateful Lisa is here so Daddy doesn't have to talk to himself during dinner anymore. He does that sometimes and it's silly. Michael laughed, a real laugh that lit up his face. I'm grateful for a daughter who keeps me humble. And for unexpected guests who remind us why we do what we do. They ate. Lisa tried to pace herself, but hunger won. She consumed her first plate faster than dignity should allow, then accepted a second helping when Michael offered without comment or judgment. The spaghetti was indeed excellent. The garlic bread was perfection. But more than the food, it was the conversation. Emma told stories about school, about her best friend Zoe, about the upcoming science fair where she wanted to build a volcano. Michael listened with genuine interest, asking questions, making jokes, being present in a way Lisa rarely saw fathers be with their children. The love between them was palpable, but so was the shadow of loss. Little moments where Emma would mention something about her mother, and Michael's smile would falter just slightly before he recovered. They'd been through something terrible together, this father and daughter. But they'd survived it with their humanity intact. With their capacity for kindness undimmed. With their home open to strangers who needed refuge. After dinner, Michael cleared dishes while Emma showed Lisa her art portfolio. Drawing after drawing of hearts and flowers and my family pictures that included a woman who had to be Sarah, drawn in crayon with angel wings. Mommy's in heaven now, Emma explained matter-of-factly. But she's still part of our family. Daddy says love doesn't end just because someone goes away. Your daddy's right, Lisa said, thinking of her own parents, of the love she'd taken for granted until shame drove them away. Love doesn't end. When the kitchen was clean, Michael returned to find Emma starting to yawn. Bedtime routine kicked in with practiced efficiency. Teeth brushing, pajamas, story time. Michael glanced at Lisa. You're welcome to the couch tonight, he said. I'll get you some blankets and a pillow. The guest room is actually my home office, but I can clear some space tomorrow if you need to stay longer. I don't want to impose, Lisa said, the words automatic. You're not imposing. You're accepting help. There's a difference. Michael disappeared into a closet and returned with linens. Bathroom's yours whenever you need it. Door locks if that makes you feel safer. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen. And Lisa, he paused, holding her gaze, whatever you're running from, whatever happened to you, it doesn't have to define what happens next. Tonight you're safe. Tomorrow we can figure out the next step. Lisa nodded, not trusting herself to speak. After Emma was tucked in and Michael had retreated to his room, Lisa lay on the couch under soft blankets in the dark apartment. For the first time in 3 weeks, she wasn't cold, wasn't hungry, wasn't completely alone. The apartment was silent except for the distant sound of traffic and the hum of the refrigerator. She thought about Marcus, about the betrayal that had led her here. She thought about her parents, about the calls she hadn't returned. She thought about bright future and everything she'd built and lost. But mostly she thought about the impossible kindness of strangers. A man who'd seen her at her worst and offered help without condition. A little girl who'd made her a name card so she'd know she belonged. Who were these people? Michael's clothes were humble, his home modest, but something about him didn't quite fit. The way he spoke, educated and careful. The way he carried himself, confident despite his casual appearance. The intelligence in his eyes when he looked at her, seeing through her defenses to the person underneath. And why had he helped her? People didn't just rescue strangers off sidewalks. Not in this world. Not without wanting something in return. But Michael had asked for nothing, expected nothing. Simply offered sanctuary because it was the right thing to do. Lisa's analytical mind, the same mind that had built a multimillion-dollar company, tried to find the angle, the hidden motive, the trap. But exhaustion finally won over suspicion. For the first time since her world collapsed, she let herself relax. Let herself trust just for tonight. As sleep finally claimed her, Lisa's last thought was a whisper of possibility. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something. Not an ending but a turning point. The moment where the fall stopped and the climb back up began. She didn't know that Michael lay awake in his room, staring at his ceiling, wondering if he'd done the right thing bringing a stranger into Emma's life. Didn't know that he'd recognized her the moment he saw her face, had followed her case in the news, had suspected her innocence when everyone else had convicted her. Didn't know that his offer of help wasn't quite as spontaneous as it seemed. She didn't know that tomorrow would bring new complications and unexpected revelations. Didn't know that accepting his help tonight would entangle their lives in ways neither of them could predict. All she knew as sleep finally took her was that she'd been drowning for weeks. And tonight, someone had finally thrown her a lifeline. Whether she had the strength to hold on remained to be seen. But at least for the first time since Marcus destroyed her life, she had a chance to try. The thing about rock bottom is that it teaches you who you really are. It strips away the pretense, the performance, the carefully constructed identity you've shown the world. And in that stripping away, you discover whether you're the kind of person who gives up or gets up. Whether you reach out for help or let pride drown you. Lisa had spent 3 weeks drowning, and in one night, a stranger had reminded her that reaching out wasn't weakness. It was wisdom. If you've ever been at that breaking point, if you've ever needed someone to see you when you felt invisible, drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in our struggles is the first step toward climbing out of them. And maybe, just maybe, your story might be the lifeline someone else needs to grab onto. Because that's what community does. It reminds us we're human. Lisa woke to the smell of coffee and pancakes, and for one disoriented moment, she thought she was back in her penthouse, that the last month had been a nightmare she could shake off with consciousness. Then she opened her eyes to see an unfamiliar ceiling, felt the couch beneath her instead of her memory foam mattress, and reality crashed back in. She sat up quickly, her lawyer instincts screaming that she'd made herself vulnerable, that accepting help from strangers was dangerous, that she needed to leave before whatever transaction this really was revealed itself. But then she heard Emma's laughter from the kitchen, high and pure, followed by Michael's voice saying something about pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. The clock on the wall read 7:23 a.m. Friday morning. Lisa had slept for nearly 10 hours, the first uninterrupted sleep she'd had since the FBI had frozen her accounts. Her body ached with the kind of soreness that comes from finally releasing tension held too long. "Good morning," Michael's voice came from the kitchen doorway. He held a mug of coffee, steam curling from it like a question mark. "I hope we didn't wake you. Emma's not exactly quiet in the mornings." "Coffee?" "Please," Lisa said, her voice rough from sleep and disuse. She stood, acutely aware of having slept in her clothes, of how she must look, of the power imbalance inherent in this situation. Michael handed her the mug, their fingers briefly touching in the exchange. His hands were calloused, she noticed. Not the soft hands of someone who'd never worked, but the hands of someone who'd built things, fixed things, created things with their own labor. "There are fresh towels in the bathroom," he said, "and I left some clothes outside the door. My sister left some things here a while back. You're about the same size. Not exactly high fashion, but clean and comfortable." Lisa looked down at herself, at her rumpled suit that had once cost $3,000 and now just marked her as someone who'd fallen far. "Thank you," she managed. "Michael, I need to figure out how to repay you for this. I don't have money right now, but I can work, I can clean, I can." "Lisa." He said her name gently but firmly. "Yesterday you asked me why I was helping you. The real answer is that about 2 years ago I lost someone I loved very much. And in the grief I almost lost myself too. Someone helped me remember who I was underneath the pain. Not with money or solutions, but with presence and patience. This," he gestured around the modest apartment, "this is me paying it forward. No debt. No obligation. Just one human helping another because we're supposed to take care of each other. People don't actually do that," Lisa said, her voice bitter despite herself. "Not in the real world. Everyone wants something." "Then maybe," Michael said quietly, "you've been living in the wrong world. Or maybe you've been around the wrong people. Either way, I'm not everyone. And this is the real world. Just a different version than the one that hurt you." Before Lisa could respond, Emma bounded into the room, her hair in lopsided pigtails, syrup somehow already on her chin despite breakfast not being served yet. "Lisa, you're awake. Daddy made dinosaur pancakes and I helped. Well, I mostly watched and stirred the blueberries, but that's helping. Do you like blueberries? And can you do French braids? Daddy tries, but they always look like snakes fighting." The rapid-fire questions, the absolute acceptance in Emma's eyes, the normalcy of a 6-year-old worrying about hairstyles while Lisa's entire life was in ruins, it was so absurd that Lisa felt something crack in her chest. Not breaking this time, but opening. A fissure in the armor she'd built to survive the last month. "I can do French braids," Lisa heard herself say. "After breakfast?" "Yes." Emma pumped her fist in victory. "See, Daddy? I told you we needed her." Needed her. When was the last time someone had needed Lisa for something other than her business acumen or her signature on documents or her ability to make people rich? When had she last been valued for something as simple as knowing how to braid hair? Breakfast was a revelation. Not just the food, though the dinosaur pancakes were indeed excellent, but the ritual of it. Michael and Emma had a routine, a comfortable dance of passing syrup and debating whether Triceratops or T-Rex was the superior dinosaur. They included Lisa naturally, asking her opinion, treating her not as a charity case but as a guest, as someone whose presence added to rather than burdened their morning. "So," Michael said as they finished eating, "I need to be upfront with you about something, Lisa. Emma has school today and I have some work I need to handle. You're welcome to stay here, rest, use the shower, eat whatever you want from the kitchen. I'm not kicking you out. But I also want you to feel like you have agency, like you can make your own choices about what comes next." Agency. Choice. Concepts that had been stripped from Lisa when Marcus had stolen not just her money but her autonomy, her reputation, her ability to control her own narrative. "I don't want to be in your way," Lisa said. "You're not in my way. But if staying here makes you uncomfortable, if you'd rather figure out another solution, I understand. There's no wrong answer." Lisa thought about her alternatives. The car that was probably accruing parking tickets. The library where she could charge her laptop but couldn't stay all day. The constant vigilance required to survive on the street. The exhaustion that was killing her by inches. "Could I?" She hesitated, pride warring with need. Could I stay today? Just today. To figure things out. You can stay as long as you need, Michael said. But let's start with today. Emma, go brush your teeth. We leave in 15 minutes. As Emma scampered off, Michael cleared the breakfast dishes, loading them into the dishwasher with practiced efficiency. Lisa stood, uncertain, wanting to help but not sure what her role was in this space. The clothes are outside the bathroom door, Michael said without looking at her. Take your time. There's shampoo, conditioner, body wash, whatever you need. Lock the door if that makes you feel safer. Lisa, he turned to face her, his expression serious. I know trust is hard right now. I know you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, for me to reveal what I really want from you. But there is no other shoe. This is just kindness. Practice accepting it. You might need to remember what comes next in your life. He left her standing in the kitchen, processing words that felt too good to be true. In her experience, kindness always came with strings attached. Mentors who wanted credit for her success. Investors who wanted control. Partners who wanted, well, everything she'd built. But Michael was asking for nothing. And that terrified her more than any demand would have. The shower was transcendent. Hot water that didn't run out after 2 minutes. Shampoo that actually cleaned her hair instead of the cheap bar soap she'd been using at gas station bathrooms. The privacy to finally break down, to let the water mix with her tears, to wash away not just the physical grime of 3 weeks on the street but some of the emotional residue too. The clothes Michael's sister had left were simple. Jeans that fit surprisingly well. A soft blue sweater that didn't look expensive but felt luxurious against her clean skin. Underwear still in a package, which Lisa appreciated more than she could express. Socks. Simple sneakers. She looked at herself in the steamy bathroom mirror. Still too thin. Still exhausted looking. But cleaner. More human. Less like a ghost of who she'd been and more like, maybe, a person who could become someone new. When she emerged, Michael and Emma were ready to leave. Emma wore a backpack covered in unicorn patches and carried a lunchbox shaped like a rocket ship. You look pretty, Emma said with the unfiltered honesty of children. Blue is definitely your color. Right, Daddy? Right, Michael agreed, but his eyes held something Lisa couldn't quite read. Sympathy, maybe. Or recognition. We'll be back around 3:30. Emma has school until 3 and I usually pick her up then. Help yourself to anything in the apartment. There's sandwich stuff in the fridge, fruit, whatever you want. The Wi-Fi password is on a sticky note by the router if you need internet. Internet. Lisa's laptop was in her car, probably dead, but the thought of connectivity, of being able to continue her desperate research into Marcus's whereabouts, sent a jolt of purpose through her. Thank you, she said, the words inadequate for everything he'd given her. Michael, I don't know how to. You don't have to, he said simply. Just be here when we get back. That's enough. After they left, Lisa stood in the silent apartment, alone for the first time since yesterday's collapse. She should feel vulnerable, she thought. Exposed. But instead, she felt something she hadn't experienced in weeks, safety. The apartment was modest but well-maintained. Lisa found herself examining it with the eye of someone trained to assess and analyze. The furniture was functional, nothing designer, but quality pieces chosen for durability rather than style. The bookshelves held an eclectic mix, technical manuals on cloud computing alongside children's books and classics. A few framed photos showed Michael and Emma at various ages, and several included a beautiful woman with Emma's eyes and a smile that lit up the frame. Sarah. The wife he'd lost. Lisa found herself studying Sarah's face, this woman who'd loved the man kind enough to rescue strangers. She looked happy in the photos. Genuinely, completely happy. The kind of happiness Lisa had always told herself she'd have time for later, after the company was stable, after the next funding round, after she'd proven herself. Later had never come. And now, everything she'd sacrificed relationships for was gone. In the kitchen, Lisa made herself a sandwich, forcing herself to eat even though anxiety killed her appetite. She found her laptop in her car, brought it up, and plugged it in by the router. The Wi-Fi password worked. She was online. For the next several hours, Lisa did what she did best. She investigated. She compiled. She analyzed. Marcus had been careful, but nobody was perfect. Every digital transaction left traces. Every forged document had markers. Every lie had seams. She just had to find them. She built spreadsheets, cross-referenced IP addresses, tracked down shell companies. The work consumed her, gave her purpose, reminded her she was more than a victim. She was Lisa Kingston, MIT graduate, tech CEO, problem solver. One betrayal didn't erase a lifetime of competence. But even as she worked, part of her mind kept returning to Michael. Who was he really? His apartment suggested modest means, but something didn't add up. The cloud computing manuals were advanced, PhD-level material. His vocabulary, his bearing, the way he thought through problems, these weren't markers of someone struggling to make ends meet. And he'd known what to look for when he found her. The designer suit, the worn-through heels. He'd read her situation with an accuracy that suggested experience, education, insight. He'd said he worked, but doing what? From where? She'd seen no home office, no indication of employment. Lisa pulled herself away from her Marcus investigation long enough to do something she probably shouldn't have. She searched for Michael Torres in Seattle. The results were overwhelming. There were dozens of Michael Torreses. Teachers, engineers, retail workers, students. None of them seemed to match the man who'd taken her in. She was about to give up when something made her narrow the search. Michael Torres' Cloud Vision. It was a shot in the dark, inspired by the cloud computing books on his shelf. The search results made her breath catch. Michael Torres, founder and majority shareholder of Cloud Vision Solutions. Net worth estimated at $8.7 billion. One of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in North America. Widower. Father. Known for his privacy and recent withdrawal from public life. Lisa stared at the screen, her mind refusing to process what she was seeing. The man who'd worn jeans with holes in them to pick up his daughter from public school. The man who'd compared bread prices in the grocery store. The man who lived in a 2-bedroom apartment that probably rented for $1,800 a month. Was worth nearly $9 billion. No, Lisa whispered to the empty apartment. No, that can't be. But the photos confirmed it. A younger Michael in a suit at tech conferences. Michael accepting awards. Michael's wedding photo to Sarah Torres, herself a renowned software engineer. The pieces fell into place with devastating clarity. He'd known who she was. Had to have known. Her case had been all over the tech news. And he'd found her, approached her, offered help, all while pretending to be just another struggling single dad. The kindness that had felt so genuine, the acceptance that had started to heal her broken places, all of it had been built on a lie. Lisa's hands shook as she closed the laptop. Betrayal tasted familiar now, bitter and corrosive. Marcus had taught her what deception looked like in business. Now Michael was teaching her what it looked like in kindness. Or was he? She forced herself to think past the hurt, to analyze rather than react. Michael hadn't promised her anything. Hadn't offered money or solutions. He'd given her food, shelter, and dignity. The basics of human care. The fact that he could have given her millions but chose to give her only what she needed to survive the night, what did that mean? Was it cruelty? Or was it something else? Something about seeing her as a person rather than a problem to be solved with money? Lisa didn't know. Couldn't know. But the walls she'd started to lower snapped back into place, reinforced by this new knowledge. She'd trusted once and been destroyed. She'd started to trust again, and discovered it was built on omission if not outright lies. She wouldn't make that mistake a third time. When Michael and Emma returned at 3:30, Lisa was sitting on the couch, her laptop closed, her expression carefully neutral. Emma burst in with her usual enthusiasm, already talking about her day, about the art project she'd made, about the friend who'd brought cupcakes for her birthday. Lisa, I made you something in art class. Mrs. Patterson said we could make whatever we wanted, and I made you a butterfly because Daddy said you're going through a transfer, a big change, and butterflies do that too. Emma thrust a construction paper butterfly at Lisa, covered in glitter and marker and the kind of earnest creativity that only children possess. Lisa took it with hands that wanted to shake, staring at this gift from a child who barely knew her but had thought of her anyway. "It's beautiful, Emma," Lisa managed. "Thank you. You're welcome. Hey, can we do my hair now? The French braids? Please?" Lisa glanced at Michael, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Did he know that she knew? Was he waiting for her to confront him? Or was he really so committed to this performance that he thought she'd never figure it out? "Sure," Lisa said to Emma. "Go get your brush and some hair ties." As Emma raced off, Michael stepped closer, his voice low. "Everything okay? You seem different this morning." "I'm fine," Lisa said. The lie was smooth and well-rehearsed. "Just thinking about what comes next. I can't stay here indefinitely, Michael. I need to figure out a plan." "You've been here one night," he said gently. "You don't have to solve everything today. But if you're feeling like you need some purpose, some structure, I actually wanted to talk to you about something." Here it comes, Lisa thought. The real price. The thing he actually wants. "I work from home most of the time," Michael continued, "and Emma gets out of school at 3. Usually, she goes to an after-school program until I can wrap up work around 5 or 5:30. But she doesn't love it there. She's been sad since her mom died." Quieter. "The counselor says she needs more connection, more stability." "And?" Lisa prompted, her tone harder than she intended. "And I thought maybe you could spend that time with her. After school until dinner. Help her with homework, play games, just be present. In exchange, you'd have room and board here, meals, and some cash for whatever else you need. It's not charity. It's a job. One I think you'd be good at, and one that would help both Emma and give you some breathing room to figure out your next steps." It was reasonable. Generous even. But Lisa heard what he wasn't saying. He was giving her a role, a purpose, something to do that wasn't just surviving. He was offering her dignity disguised as employment. And the fact that he was a billionaire playing at poverty while she was actually desperate made the offer feel like manipulation, even if she couldn't articulate why. "I'll think about it," Lisa said. "That's all I'm asking," Michael replied. But his eyes held concern, confusion at the shift in her demeanor. Good. Let him wonder. Let him feel uncertain for once. Emma returned, and Lisa spent the next 30 minutes braiding her hair with practiced precision, teaching her the technique, making conversation about school and friends and the science fair volcano. Emma's joy was unfiltered, her gratitude genuine. Whatever deception existed between Lisa and Michael, Emma was innocent in it. That night, dinner was quieter than breakfast had been. Lisa participated but held herself apart, armored against the warmth of their little family unit. She saw Michael noticing, saw him trying to figure out what had changed, but he didn't push. Maybe he was smart enough to know that pushing would reveal things he wanted to keep hidden. After Emma went to bed, Michael approached Lisa as she sat on the couch, her laptop open but unused. "Did something happen today?" he asked directly. "You can tell me if someone bothered you, if you felt unsafe, if I did something wrong." "You didn't do anything wrong," Lisa said, which was technically true. "I'm just processing. Everything. It's a lot." "It is a lot," Michael agreed. He sat in the chair across from her, not crowding her space. "Lisa, I meant what I said yesterday. You don't owe me anything. If you want to leave tomorrow, I'll help you figure out where you want to go. If you want to stay, the offer about helping with Emma stands. But I need you to tell me what you need because I can't read your mind." What she needed was honesty. What she needed was to understand why a billionaire would pretend to be middle class to help a disgraced CEO. What she needed was to know if his kindness was genuine or if this was some elaborate social experiment, some way for him to feel good about himself by rescuing someone less fortunate. But she said none of that. Instead, she said, "I'll take the job. With Emma. Starting Monday. That gives me the weekend to figure some things out." Relief flooded Michael's face, which annoyed Lisa more than it should have. He was relieved she'd stay, relieved she'd accepted his terms, relieved that his comfortable little arrangement would continue. "Thank you," he said. "Really? Emma's going to be so happy." After he went to bed, Lisa sat in the dark apartment, the butterfly Emma had made catching the streetlight through the window, glitter sparkling like false promises. She'd stay. She'd take his charity disguised as employment. She'd play along with whatever this was. But she wouldn't forget that kindness from the wealthy wasn't the same as kindness between equals. She wouldn't forget that Michael Torres had resources that could solve her problems with a single phone call, but instead chose to offer her the scraps of room and board. She wouldn't forget that even in her rescue she was being managed, controlled, kept in a box someone else had built. But she'd also use this time. Use his internet. Use his resources. Use the stability he was offering to build her case against Marcus, to find the evidence she needed, to reclaim what had been stolen. Michael Torres might think he was helping her. But Lisa Kingston was nobody's charity project. She was a survivor. And survivors did whatever they needed to do to claw their way back to the top. Even if that meant accepting help from a man who'd lied by omission about everything he was. The irony wasn't lost on her. A billionaire teaching her humility by pretending to be poor. A CEO learning dependence while planning her independence. Two people under one roof, both hiding who they really were, both convinced they were helping the other. It would be almost funny if it didn't hurt so much. Lisa pulled the blanket up to her chin and closed her eyes, already planning tomorrow. She'd get her car, move it to safer parking. She'd call her lawyer, see if there were any updates. She'd continue her investigation into Marcus. And she'd figure out how to survive in this strange new world where nothing was as it seemed, and kindness came wrapped in deception. In his room, Michael stared at his ceiling, wondering what he'd done wrong. Something had shifted in Lisa today. Some wall had gone up that hadn't been there this morning. He'd seen it in her eyes, the trust beginning to form and then suddenly withdrawing. Had she figured out who he was? It was possible. The apartment had clues, his books, his mannerisms. Maybe she'd searched his name. Maybe she felt betrayed by the omission. But he'd been careful for a reason. Every time someone learned about his wealth, they changed. They became different versions of themselves, performing for his money rather than connecting with his humanity. He'd wanted to give Lisa something pure. Help without the contamination of obligation that came with knowing she was accepting aid from a billionaire. He'd wanted to see if she could be real with him, and if he could be real with her without the weight of his fortune crushing the possibility of genuine connection. Maybe that was selfish. Maybe Sarah had been wrong about finding himself by helping others. Maybe he was just another rich man playing games with people's lives, convincing himself it was noble when it was really just manipulation with good intentions. Michael didn't know anymore. But he knew Emma liked Lisa. Knew Lisa needed help whether she admitted it or not. Knew that walking away now would hurt more than staying committed to the course he'd set. So he'd continue. Give her space. Give her time. And hope that eventually whatever wall had gone up today would come down again. Two people. One apartment. 1,000 secrets between them. And a little girl who just wanted everyone to be happy again. It was, Michael thought as sleep finally took him, a recipe for either redemption or disaster. He just wasn't sure which. The weekend passed in careful politeness. Lisa kept to herself, using the library during the day to continue her investigation into Marcus, returning to the apartment only in the evenings. Michael didn't push, but Emma filled the spaces with her chatter, her presence a buffer between the two adults who circled each other like wary animals. Saturday evening, while Emma was absorbed in a cartoon, Michael found Lisa in the kitchen making tea. He poured himself a cup of coffee and leaned against the counter, his posture casual but his eyes serious. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "You just did," Lisa replied, then softened slightly at his expression. "Sorry? Yes. What?" "The company that collapsed. Bright Future Analytics. That was yours, wasn't it?" Lisa's hand froze halfway to her mug. Her heart rate spiked, adrenaline flooding her system. Fight or flight. But there was nowhere to run in this small kitchen, and fighting would mean admitting things she wasn't ready to admit. "How did you?" she started. "I recognized you," Michael said simply. "Not at first. You looked different that night, more broken than the photos I'd seen in the news. But later, after you fell asleep, I realized where I'd seen your face before. The Forbes cover. The conference keynotes. You were brilliant, Lisa. Are brilliant. What happened to you was a travesty." Lisa set down her mug with shaking hands. "You've known this whole time? Known who I am, what I did, what people think I did, and you just, what? Decided to conduct some kind of experiment?" See how the mighty have fallen? Get a good story for your next dinner party about the CEO you rescued from the gutter. No, Michael said, his voice steady, calm. I decided that someone innocent was being destroyed by a broken system, and that if I had the capacity to help, I should. You didn't embezzle that money, Lisa. Anyone with half a brain and access to the real evidence can see that. Your partner set you up masterfully, and then everyone abandoned you when you needed them most. And you're different? Lisa challenged. You're what, my savior? My white knight riding in to rescue the poor black woman who couldn't possibly figure things out herself. I'm someone who recognizes injustice when I see it, Michael said without rising to her anger. And I'm someone who lost everything that mattered once, and learned that life isn't about what you have. It's about who you are when everything's been stripped away. You want to know why I helped you? Because that night, on that sidewalk, you were the most honest human being I'd met in 2 years. Real pain, real fear, real humanity. Not performing, not pretending, just existing in your truth. That's rare, Lisa, and worth saving. Don't make me into some noble victim, Lisa said. I'm not here to teach you life lessons or make you feel good about yourself. I made mistakes, trusted the wrong person, got arrogant. This is what happens when you forget that everyone's looking for an angle. Like you think I am? Michael asked quietly. Lisa met his eyes. Aren't you? This whole setup, the modest apartment, the single dad routine, the offer of employment, it's very neat, very contained. You get to feel generous without actually risking anything, and I get to feel grateful while staying completely dependent. Is that really what you think? Michael's voice held hurt now, which Lisa told herself she shouldn't care about. That this is about my ego? My need to feel helpful? I don't know what this is about, Lisa said honestly. But I know that nobody does something for nothing. So what do you want, Michael? Really want? Because at some point the bill comes due. It always does. Michael was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down his coffee and crossed his arms, his posture shifting from casual to serious. You're right, he said. I do want something. I want Emma to see that the world isn't only cruel and random. That sometimes people help each other because it's right, not because there's a transaction. She watched her mother die, watched me fall apart afterward. She's 6 years old and she's already learned that good people suffer and love doesn't stop bad things from happening. I don't want her to also learn that nobody cares, that everyone's selfish, that kindness is a lie people tell themselves. He paused, his voice thick. So yes, I'm using you. I'm using your situation to teach my daughter that we help people when they're down. That we don't look away from suffering. That humanity means something. If that makes me selfish, then I'm selfish. But at least I'm honest about it. The kitchen fell silent except for the muffled sound of Emma's cartoon from the living room. Lisa felt her anger deflating, replaced by something more complex, shame and recognition and the uncomfortable realization that she'd projected her own cynicism onto a situation that might have been exactly what it appeared to be. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I'm not good at this. Accepting help. Trusting people. Marcus destroyed more than my company and my reputation. He destroyed my ability to believe in anything good. I know, Michael said. Sarah's death did something similar to me. Made me question everything I thought I knew about how the world worked. About fairness and justice and meaning. I spent 6 months after she died in what my therapist called a dark night of the soul. Emma would be sleeping, and I'd just sit in the dark wondering what the point of any of it was. How did you get through it? Lisa asked, surprising herself with the question. Therapy, Michael said with a self-deprecating smile. So much therapy. And Emma. Having to show up for her every day even when I wanted to disappear. Making breakfast and braiding hair badly and answering the same question about why mommy couldn't come back 17 times in one night. You can't wallow in despair when a 6-year-old needs you to open her juice box. She's a special kid, Lisa said. She is, Michael agreed. His expression softened. She really likes you. Talked about you all day today. About how you're going to help her build the best volcano for the science fair, even though I don't think you actually agreed to that yet. Despite everything, Lisa smiled. Volcanoes I can do. I did win the science fair in 6th grade with a model of volcanic activity. Teacher said it was college-level work. See? Michael's smile matched hers. You're not just a CEO. You're a person with skills Emma needs. Skills I don't have. That's not charity, Lisa. That's genuine employment. She learns, you contribute. Everyone benefits. They stood in the kitchen, the tension from moments before easing into something resembling understanding. Not trust, not yet. But maybe the foundation for it. Can I ask you something now? Lisa ventured. Fair's fair. Your wife, Sarah. What was she like? Michael's face transformed, grief and love mingling in his expression. Brilliant. Genuinely, intimidatingly brilliant. She wrote code like other people wrote poetry. But she was also kind in a way that confused people. They couldn't understand how someone so smart could also be so gentle. She used to say that intelligence without compassion was just elaborate cruelty. She sounds remarkable. She was. I know she's gone, but I can't bring myself to use past tense for everything about her. Some things about a person don't die just because their body does. He looked at Lisa. You probably think that's crazy. No, Lisa said. I think it's love. Real love. The kind that doesn't have an expiration date. What about you? Michael asked. Anyone in your life? Anyone you had to leave behind when everything collapsed? Lisa shook her head. I dated casually. But I always told myself I was too busy for serious relationships. Building a company required sacrifice, and romantic relationships were something I'd get to later. After the Series C funding. After we went public, after I'd proven I belonged in those boardrooms. There was always an after, and I never thought about what happened if after never came. Lonely way to live, Michael observed, not unkindly. I didn't think of it as lonely. I thought of it as focused, driven, necessary. Women, especially black women in tech, we don't get to be mediocre and still succeed. We have to be twice as good, work twice as hard, sacrifice twice as much. I saw relationships as a luxury I couldn't afford. She laughed bitterly. Turns out I couldn't afford the alternative either. When I lost everything, there was nobody to call. Nobody who'd risk their reputation to stand by me. I'd built a career on the backs of 1,000 professional relationships, and not one of them turned into an actual friendship. That's why you're having trouble trusting me? Michael asked. Because I'm showing up when nobody else does and it doesn't fit your model of how people work? Maybe, Lisa admitted. Or maybe I'm just smart enough to know that everyone wants something eventually. Even the helpers. Especially the helpers. Well, Michael said, picking up his coffee mug, I guess time will tell if I'm the exception or the rule. Either way, Monday morning, Emma's going to want you to help her make lunch for school. She's very particular about how her sandwiches are cut. Just warning you. He left the kitchen, leaving Lisa alone with her tea and her thoughts. The conversation had cracked something open, a window into Michael's pain that mirrored her own in unexpected ways. They'd both lost something irreplaceable. They'd both been broken by life. They'd both been learning to survive in the aftermath. Maybe that's why he'd helped her. Not because he had some savior complex, but because he recognized a fellow survivor. Someone else who'd been to the edge and was still figuring out how to step back from it. Or maybe she was being naive again. Maybe she was doing exactly what Marcus had trained her not to do, seeing what she wanted to see instead of what was really there. Lisa didn't know. Couldn't know. But she had nowhere else to go, no other options, no alternative path. So she'd stay. She'd help Emma. She'd keep investigating Marcus. And she'd try to keep her guard up while her heart kept insisting on lowering it. Sunday passed more easily. Emma insisted on a trip to the park, and Lisa found herself pushing swings and spotting her on the climbing structure while Michael sat on a bench, working on his laptop. Other parents and nannies populated the playground, their kids shrieking with joy, their conversations mundane and beautiful. A woman approached Michael, clearly interested, her smile bright and her body language open. Lisa watched from the swings as the woman introduced herself, asked about Emma, made conversation that was obviously an attempt at flirtation. Michael was polite but distant, offering nothing that encouraged continuation. After a few minutes, the woman took the hint and drifted away. Daddy gets hit on at the park a lot, Emma confided to Lisa, rolling her eyes with 6-year-old wisdom. He never says yes. He says he's not ready. But I think he's just scared. Scared of what? Lisa asked, continuing to push the swing. Scared Mommy would be sad if he loved someone else. But Mommy told him before she died that she wanted him to be happy. I was there. I heard her. She said, "Don't be alone forever, Michael. Promise me." And he promised, but I don't think he remembers. Lisa's heart clenched. Maybe he's just waiting for the right person. Maybe, Emma said. Or maybe he's waiting for someone who needs him as much as he needs them. That's what Mommy told me love is. When people need each other in the good ways, not the bad ways. Out of the mouths of babes, Lisa thought. This child understood love better at 6 than Lisa had at 28. That night, after Emma was asleep, Lisa found Michael on the small balcony that overlooked the parking lot. He was nursing a beer, staring at nothing in particular. Mind if I join you? Lisa asked. Please, Michael gestured to the other chair. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the city sounds of Seattle drifting up from below. Cars passing. Distant sirens. Someone's television playing too loud through an open window. Emma told me about Sarah's last words to you, Lisa said finally. About not being alone forever. Michael took a long drink of his beer. That kid doesn't know how to keep a secret. She loves you. Wants you to be happy. I am happy, Michael said, but it sounded like a lie even to him. I have Emma. I have my work. I have a good life. But you're lonely, Lisa said. It wasn't a question. Michael looked at her, really looked at her. Aren't you? Yes, Lisa admitted. But I'm starting to think I was lonely long before I lost everything. I just kept myself too busy to notice. Same, Michael said. Sarah and we were good together. But the last few years before she got sick, I was so consumed with cloud vision, with scaling, with becoming successful, that I missed how much distance I'd created. She tried to tell me, tried to pull me back to what mattered. But I kept saying after this next deal, or after this next milestone. And then she was diagnosed and there was no more after. Is that why you stepped back? Lisa asked. From the company? Michael froze, his beer halfway to his mouth. What? Lisa realized her mistake immediately. She'd revealed that she knew more than she should. More than he'd told her. I searched your name, she confessed. After I saw the cloud computing books. I put it together. Michael Torres, Cloud Vision Solutions. $8.7 billion net worth. That's you, isn't it? The silence stretched between them, heavy with implication. Michael set down his beer carefully, his expression unreadable. How long have you known? He asked quietly. Since Friday. The day after you brought me here. And you stayed anyway, Michael said. Even though you knew I'd lied by omission about who I was. You helped me when you thought I didn't know, Lisa countered. I wanted to see if that would change. If you'd reveal yourself once you thought I was settled. If the billionaire savior would make his grand entrance. That's not, Michael started, then stopped. Okay, that's fair. I did lie. Not outright, but by omission. By letting you believe I was just some regular guy struggling to make ends meet. Why? Lisa asked. Why the disguise? Why not just offer to help as who you really are? Michael leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at his hands. Because when people know who I am, they treat me differently. They perform. They become the version of themselves they think I want to see. Or they become the version that wants something from me. Money. Connections. Validation. I've been rich for over a decade, Lisa. In that time, I've watched every relationship become transactional. Every friendship comes with expectations. Every kindness gets analyzed for ulterior motives. He looked up at her. 2 years ago, when Sarah died, I realized I'd surrounded myself with people who knew my net worth better than they knew my character. At her funeral, dozens of people showed up who'd never had a real conversation with me. They came because it was good business, good networking, the right thing to do for someone in my position. Sarah's real friends were there too, but I couldn't tell them apart anymore from the professionals' mourning. Lisa felt something shift in her chest. Understanding, maybe. Recognition of a pain that mirrored her own. So you disappeared, she said. So I became invisible, Michael corrected. I wanted to know if I could still connect with people as just Michael. Not Michael Torres, billionaire. Not Michael Torres, tech genius. Just a widower trying to raise his daughter right. And for 2 years it's been lonely but real. Nobody wants anything from me except Emma's PDA, and they just want me to bring cupcakes to the bake sale. And then you found me, Lisa said. Or I found you. However, that worked. I'd been following your case, Michael admitted. Bright Futures technology was revolutionary. You were doing good work, solving real problems. When the fraud story broke, I had my team look into it quietly. The evidence against you was too perfect. Too clean. Nobody guilty leaves that need of a trail. It had setup written all over it. You investigated me? Lisa didn't know whether to be angry or grateful. I investigated the situation, Michael clarified. And I believed in your innocence. But I couldn't just throw money at you. That would have made you another project, another charity case. I needed to know who you were underneath the CEO title. If you were worth saving not because of your company, but because of your character. That's pretty arrogant, Lisa said. Deciding you get to judge my character before helping me? It is, Michael agreed. Absolutely arrogant. Sarah would have called me out on it immediately. But after being used so many times, after having my generosity exploited by people who saw me as an ATM, I needed to protect myself. And Emma. I couldn't bring someone into our lives who was just going to perform goodness long enough to get what they wanted. And what's your assessment? Lisa asked, her voice sharp. Did I pass your test? Am I worthy of the great Michael Torres' assistance? You're angry, Michael observed. You have every right to be. Damn right I'm angry. Lisa stood up, pacing the small balcony. You watched me collapse on that sidewalk, probably knew exactly who I was, and decided to play some kind of social experiment. Let's see how the desperate CEO behaves when she thinks I'm poor too. You want to know what I think, Michael? I think you're just as damaged as I am. I think you're so scared of being used that you've turned helping people into a game where you hold all the cards and they don't even know they're playing. Michael stood too, his voice rising to match hers. And you know what I think? I think you're so used to fighting that you can't recognize when someone's actually on your side. I think your partner's betrayal broke something in you that sees enemies everywhere. I've been nothing but honest with you about what matters. I care about Emma, I lost Sarah, I want to help you, and instead of accepting that at face value, you're looking for the trap. Because if there's a trap, it means you're smart for spotting it. But if there's no trap, it means you might have to actually trust someone. And that's terrifying. They stood facing each other, breathing hard, two wounded people trying to decide if they were fighting or finally being honest. You're right, Lisa said finally. I am terrified. You know what Marcus taught me? That the people closest to you are the ones who can destroy you most completely. He was my partner for 3 years. 3 years of building something together, trusting each other, having each other's backs. And he used every bit of that trust to frame me so perfectly that even my own parents think I'm guilty. Her voice broke. So yes, I'm looking for the trap because the alternative is believing that you, a billionaire who could solve my problems with a phone call, is instead choosing to give me minimum wage and a couch because you want to teach your daughter about kindness. That's either the most genuinely compassionate thing I've ever encountered, or it's the most elaborate manipulation I've never seen. And I can't tell which, Michael. I can't tell, and not knowing is killing me. Michael's anger deflated. He took a step closer, his voice gentle. Lisa, I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm trying to give you what you actually need instead of what you think you want. You don't need money. You need stability. You need time to heal. You need a place to stand while you figure out how to fight back. If I'd shown up that night and said, "Hi, I'm a billionaire, here's $1 million to fix your problems," what would you have done? Lisa paused. I would have thought you wanted something in return. Exactly. You would have spent every moment waiting for the bill to come due. You would have felt indebted, owned, controlled. This way you're earning your keep. You're contributing. You're part of something instead of being a recipient of charity. Your dignity stays intact. But it's still a lie, Lisa insisted. You're still pretending to be something you're not. So are you, Michael shot back. You're pretending you don't need help. Pretending you can do this alone. Pretending that accepting assistance makes you weak. We're all pretending something, Lisa. The question is whether the pretense serves a purpose or just protects us from being real with each other. Lisa sank back into the chair, exhausted. I don't know how to do this. How to accept help. How to trust again. Michael sat beside her. Neither do I. How to help without controlling. How to connect without expecting something in return. We're both learning, I think. Both trying to figure out how to be human with each other when life has taught us that being human is dangerous. They sat in silence, the weight of mutual vulnerability settling between them. Finally, Lisa spoke. For what it's worth, thank you. For investigating my case. For believing in my innocence. For helping me even though I've been nothing but suspicious and difficult. You're not difficult, Michael said. You're careful. There's a difference. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry I wasn't completely honest from the start. I had my reasons, but that doesn't mean they were good reasons. So what now? Lisa asked. Do we start over? Do we pretend this conversation never happened? Do I leave? You stay, Michael said firmly. You help Emma, you use our resources to build your case against Marcus, and we try to figure out how to trust each other a little bit at a time. No more secrets about who we are. But no expectations either. Just two broken people trying to put their lives back together while living under the same roof. That sounds complicated, Lisa said. Everything worth doing is complicated, Michael replied. Simple is safe. But safe doesn't get you anywhere. Lisa thought about that. About her life before the collapse, how simple and safe she tried to make it. Control every variable, manage every risk, never allow herself to be vulnerable. And in the end, that hadn't protected her at all. Marcus had destroyed her precisely because she trusted too much while thinking she was being careful. Maybe the answer wasn't more walls. Maybe it was better judgment about which walls to lower and when. Okay, Lisa said. Full disclosure from here on. No more tests, no more games, just honest people trying to help each other. Deal? Deal? Michael extended his hand. Lisa took it. His grip was warm, firm, and genuine. For the first time since that rainy night, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this could actually work. They stayed on the balcony talking until after midnight. Michael told her about Cloud Vision's founding, about the garage where he'd built the first servers, about the crazy years of scaling. Lisa told him about Bright Future, about the problems she'd been trying to solve in healthcare data privacy, about the recognition and validation she'd craved her whole life. They talked about their parents. Michael's, immigrants from Mexico who'd worked in agriculture to give him opportunities. Lisa's, from Jamaica, who'd sacrificed everything for her education. Both sets of parents had given their children the American dream, and both children had learned that achieving the dream came with costs nobody talked about. My mom used to say that success was the best revenge, Lisa said. Revenge against everyone who doubted us, who made assumptions based on skin color or accent or background. So I chased success like it was oxygen. Like if I achieved enough, I'd finally prove I deserved to be in those rooms. But I never felt like I'd proved it enough. There was always another milestone, another achievement that would finally make me feel legitimate. And now? Michael asked. Now I realize that external validation is a drug you can never get enough of. Because it doesn't actually fill the hole. Only internal validation does that. Only knowing your own worth regardless of what others think. And I never learned that skill. I outsourced my self-worth to Forbes covers and funding rounds and board approvals. Sarah tried to teach me something similar, Michael said. That wealth was a tool, not an identity. That I was enough without the billions. But I didn't really hear her until she was gone. And then I had to learn it the hard way by stripping away everything that made me feel important and discovering what was left underneath. What was left? Lisa asked. A dad who loves his daughter. A man who wants to matter for reasons that have nothing to do with bank accounts. Someone who's still figuring out how to live in a world that measures everything in dollars and numbers, when the things that actually matter can't be quantified. Lisa nodded. I get that. More than I wish I did. Around 1 in the morning, they finally went inside. At their respective doors, Michael's to his bedroom, Lisa's to the couch that had become her temporary home, they paused. "Tomorrow's Monday," Michael said. "Emma's going to be so excited that you're officially starting as her. What should we call you?" "Babysitter sounds wrong. Assistant sounds too corporate." "Friend," Lisa said. "Let's call me Emma's friend. That's what I'd like to be anyway." "Friend works," Michael smiled. "Sleep well, Lisa. And thank you for staying, for giving this a chance, for trusting me even when every instinct tells you not to. Thank you for not giving up on me even when I was determined to push you away," Lisa replied. After her door closed, Lisa lay in the dark, processing everything that had been said. She'd crossed a line tonight, moved from suspicious recipient to willing participant, from the victim being helped to partner in some strange mutual healing project. It terrified her, but it also felt right in a way nothing had felt right since Marcus's betrayal. In his room, Michael lay awake too, thinking about the woman on his couch. Brilliant, broken, brave. She reminded him of Sarah in some ways, that same fierce intelligence, that same determination to prove herself. But Lisa carried wounds Sarah had never known, scars from battles Sarah had never had to fight. He wanted to help her. Not just with money or resources, but with time and presence and the kind of patient support that couldn't be bought. He wanted to see her rebuild, to watch her reclaim what had been stolen, to witness her transformation from broken to whole. And maybe in helping her transform, he'd complete his own transformation too. Maybe that's what Sarah had meant. That healing wasn't a solo journey. That you found yourself by helping others find themselves. 2 floors below, in the parking lot, Lisa's Honda Civic sat with an expired registration and a growing collection of parking tickets. Inside the glove compartment was a photograph of Lisa's parents, taken at her MIT graduation. Her mother in traditional Jamaican dress, her father in his best suit, both of them beaming with pride at their daughter who'd achieved what they'd only dreamed. Lisa hadn't looked at that photograph in weeks. Couldn't bear to face their joy when her current reality was so far from what they'd hoped for her. But tomorrow, she decided. Tomorrow she'd call them. Not to beg forgiveness, not to explain herself, but to tell them she was going to fight back. That their daughter wasn't finished yet. Because that's what this strange new arrangement with Michael and Emma had given her. Not just a roof and food, but something more valuable. Hope. Purpose. A reason to keep going when giving up would have been easier. She didn't know if it would be enough. Didn't know if she could actually clear her name, find Marcus, reclaim her life. The odds were against her. The evidence was damning. The world had already decided her guilt. But for the first time since that terrible morning when her world imploded, Lisa Kingston felt like she might have a chance. A slim chance, a fragile chance, but a chance nonetheless. And sometimes, a chance is all you need to change everything. If you've come this far, it means you believe in this community and in the power of our collective stories. What happens next would change your perception about certain things and teach you lessons you never thought this story could. If you're ready to, hit the subscribe button and come back for the second part tomorrow.